Hi, this is a short video going over how to download, install and configure the Splash Damage Script. You can download it from the DCS user files site. Click download here, or you can do it from the forum, or you can do it from the GitHub. Once you have the file, I would suggest that you copy it or download it to your C users username, save games, DCS, missions, and then create a new folder called scripts, and then download it to there. I'm going to use the 3.4 version as an example today, so you can see I've got the file there. And next I'm going to load up DCS and show you how you would add it to a mission, and then afterwards I will go over some of the configuration steps, which is something you probably need to do before you load it into the mission, but I feel most people want to see this video to see how to install it, so we'll do that first. Okay, now we are in DCS. You can go to Mission Editor, open the mission or create a new mission, whichever you want to use. Okay, and once the mission is loaded or you've created a new mission, go to this icon here, set rules for trigger, and we have it set already, but I'll create a new, type mission start, then the right side, new again, do script file, open, and then go to the mission scripts folder like I mentioned, and then Splash Damage 2.4 is right here. Click OK. And there you go, hit save. And as soon as you do this, it copies a version of this file into the mission save file, or archive is what it actually is, but yeah, it becomes part of the mission. So if you make any changes to this script outside of DCS now, it will not update unless you re-upload it by re-adding it. I usually switch to a different one and then back to this, or delete that and then hit new again, do script file. There you go. Another option to add scripts is to, instead of do script file, you can do script, and then you can copy and paste into there like so. But I find that a lot harder to actually modify, and also I don't know if there's a limit to how much you can have in there. And there is a third advanced option for people just doing testing, and you would do script, and you can set it to and you can set it so that it will automatically update the version every time. I've got an example of it here. I'll leave this example in the script file as well as a note. You paste it into here, assert, load file, and then C users, username, save games, DCS missions, and then the name of the script, which is in this case 3.4. And hit save, and then if you do it this advanced method, every time you kick off the script, it'll load it again into the mission from this location on your drive. So it's only for testing, it's not for if you are saving a mission and giving it to somebody else. So yeah, that is the method of adding the script, and now I'll go over the actual contents of the script. Okay, so this is the script. Some of this is only here because the 3.4 is not finished yet, but when it is finished this won't be here. At the top we'll have the changes that have been made recently, and then there'll be a whole big configuration section here. And then after the configuration section there's some tables. So we got a cargo units table that contains various units that you can add for cargo cook-offs and specifics for those units. And it contains explosive table, which goes over the weapons and the additional explosive power, plus another calculation on top that will trigger additional larger explosives as part of the script. There's various tables for various uses. If you need more details on them, you can ask me on Discord, or you can ask in the forum thread to get a bit more details about it, or you can just heavily read through the script. A lot of notes, a lot of comments on the script. So after the tables you've got all the actual script. So when you first get this file, you'll be changing probably just the splash damage options here, You may want to enable game messages, set that to true. That will, when you start the script, and when you start the game and it's loaded the script, you'll get a game message saying that Splash Damage 3.4 is loaded. This section's all debugs. This is the enable radio menu. This is for, if you set this to true, there's a specific list of settings which you can change mid-game for various explosive power and scaling and stuff, mostly for testing purposes. This is some basic splash settings. Here allows blast wave damages. This is the kind of core of the script. Here is the larger explosions feature, so this adds an additional explosion onto your regular explosions for your weapons, so that's more power. So various settings there. I'm going to scroll down to the newest stuff that I've introduced. Something I should note is this always cascade explode. This is set to false. The original script had this effectively as true, and it would just cause crazy blast wave explosions. Everything would explode in an area of like 90 meters from a bomb. If you want to enable that, go for it. Next up is the cargo effects, which are enabled by default, which link into the table of units I showed earlier. But here is the smoke cook-off effect for all vehicles. Defaulted to false, so you might want to change that to true if you want it. And that will cause a cook-off effect or a smoke effect to happen for every ground unit that you kill. Now this, you can enable just smoke for them, or just cook-off, or both. And then you also have additional chances down here for it to actually occur, so that it doesn't happen for every vehicle. There's an actual 0.5 would be 50% chance that there's going to be a cook-off. Here we have the advanced sequences, which are new in 3.4. So that's set to true by default here, but I'm probably going to set that to false when the script gets released, but that'll be on the forum post about that. Ordnance protection is a method to try and help when you drop loads of bombs at the same place, because they have a tendency to blow each other up with the larger explosions that are added by the script. We can ignore this cluster enabled one here. This is an old cluster improvement method that kind of failed. This is giant explosions. You can set that to true, and then name a target giant explosion target, like a tank or something, or a warehouse, or anything you can claim to be like a weapons cache or something. Call the unit giant explosion target 1, 2, 3, whatever, and then when that gets hit or dies, depending on how you've set this up, it will cause a huge explosion and tank your frame rate. But it's pretty cool. Next is tracking ground ordnance. That's for like tank shells and that kind of stuff. If they are in the explosives table, they'll be tracked and they'll trigger an additional explosion and blast wave and such, like the bombs in the script. Set to false by default. Next is napalm for Skyhawk, or you can override it to other weapons by setting this to true and then putting the weapon name in there. Napalm is enabled by default. Next is the kill feed, and this is useful to see if units are destroyed by the script, because in game you don't get kills attributed if the script effectively kills the units. So this is a way to show that the script is doing something. And if you use Lekker's Foothold missions, we have integration into that as well, so that you'll get points for your kills. Next is vehicle IED. If you set that to true, then, and the vehicle name is vehicle ID target something, that vehicle will cause an explosion when it gets hit or destroyed, depending on how you set this up. And next is the A10 murder mode, or the named unit murder mode. Basically, anytime you hit a unit with like a cannon shell or something, you'll get a hit event. This allows you to add an additional explosion on top of that unit. So if you were spraying the cannon of the A10 everywhere, if it hits a target, you can spawn an explosion of 5 every time on top of the target, or you could change that to 100 if you wanted to get instant kills with one shot. And there's also a chance of that occurring if you want it to. So by default, these are set to false and 100% chance. Okay, next is the trophy system. That uses the trophy active protection system feature I've created. If you have a tank that is set in a particular table, details to how to use the actual function will be added into the kind of release notes at the top. It will track weapons heading towards that tank, and then it will intercept them if they are a specific set of weapons like RPGs and that kind of stuff. Next is the critical component. This is effectively an instant kill on a certain chance by adding an explosion of 50 on top of a unit. So right now this is false. If I was going to set this to true, there'd be a 1% chance of an explosion of 50 power occurring when one of these weapons, which right now is set to A10, well, a cannon, but if I empty it out, that's all weapons, hitting a unit, there'll be a 1% chance that there'll be an explosion of 50 on that unit, aka instant death. I was testing this and a Sherman Tanks MG killed my A10 in one hit, so be very careful about testing this feature. Next is the ground unit explode on death, currently set to true, but with 0 chance, so that means that we have ground unit exploding on death, however there's no chance of it occurring unless they have GUED in their name. Then you're effectively forcing them to blow up when they die with this particular power. Now if you set this to 1, every unit will blow up on death. 0.2, 20% chance, and infantry will be ignored in this particular one because it's a bit crazy. Okay, this one is the new CBU bomblets. So if you set this to true, then the CBU bomblets that are in one of the lists, one of the tables at the top, if that hits a target, it will assume that targets around it should get hit too, because the DCS cluster bombs really suck, apart from specific tracking A10 ones. So it'll do a scan of units in the area and spawn explosions on them with specific damage modifiers or specific chance of getting hit, indirect hit, that kind of stuff. Last two, we've got the strobe marker. If you set the individuals 1 to true, that means you'll have a radio command to cause a strobe, visual strobe to appear on that unit, which will flash on and off. It's effectively an explosion, so if you're close to the unit you'll hear a pop, but from a distance you can't hear it, and it's very evident where that unit is, so it's very useful for marking friendly targets or enemy targets, I suppose. And the final one is tactical explosion. This is going to cause effectively a small mushroom cloud type effect, where one of the weapons for tactical explosions disappear, aka blow up. So if you set that to true, then specific weapons, which are found in one of the tables below, will cause this to occur. However, you can do an override by setting this to true, and then these weapons will now cause small mushroom clouds, and also big explosions to create the mushroom cloud. Now, this is the Zuni, so you don't have to have this, obviously, you can change this to whatever you want. But if I were to keep this untrue with the Zunis, I could fire loads of these out of the A10 and just cause loads of big explosions everywhere. Kind of gives you an idea of the craziness that can happen with that particular setting. Yep, so that is a very quick overview of the some of the features in the script and the configuration. So any questions, just ask in Discord, ask on the forum, and I'm usually pretty responsive, so yep, just ask away.